with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight, McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello there, welcome to McKnight Tonight. I am Rob McKnight and this is Wednesday the 18th of February 2026. It's Wednesday, oh my gosh, another week halfway down. I really don't know where the time is going. Yes, Amanda said I sound old. Fair enough. Hey, you can take part in the conversation tonight by going to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. It is so easy to join our growing community. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button. And if you want notifications, hit the bell as well. And every time we go live, every time we post a video, you will get a notification. And you will certainly want to take part in the conversation tonight. And I'll get to that in a moment because a lot is happening in the world today. But tonight, we're going to focus on ADHD. A little later, we have an expert panel, including our very own Beck Hocking. We'll be looking at diagnosis, stigma, and treatments. Also tonight, the Liberal Party has a simple message: Labor bad, we good, but the polls show otherwise. And just what is the coalition going to do to get our vote? Plus, a woman throws coffee at a McDonald's worker. Just what is the world coming to? And just where will we go tonight in our random live shot of the day? Okay, before we get to our ADHD panel, let's cover some hot topics. Angus Taylor unveiled his new look shadow cabinet yesterday, and there was one clear message he was keen to get out there.
The team is designed to do two key things. One, prosecute Labor's failures. It's a long list. The worst government in our nation's history.
Now, if that was too subtle for you, it was a message he and his team repeated again and again.
Labor's higher taxes, Labor's bad taxes, Labor's rorts hold a bad government to account.
Hold this terrible government to account. Wasteful spending.
You never know what the numbers are going to be under Labor. A bad Labor government.
This terrible Labor government.
Now, all that's fine. And it may be very well that Labor is a bad government. It probably depends on your political point of view. But the polls are obviously showing Labor is a favoured government at the moment, despite Anthony Albanese getting booed at the Australian Open and the like. But the problem with this message is it's the exact same message we had under Susan Lee. During Susan Lee's time, with all the turmoil going on in the Liberal and coalition, all we kept hearing from Liberal and ministers and members of Parliament was Labor bad, terrible Labor government. Well, you need to do more than just a slogan. We need solutions. Now, look, I saw Tim Wilson on Afternoon Briefing today. He actually looks like he's got some solutions that he's considering. I actually quite like the team of Shadow Cabinet that Angus Taylor has put together. I like Jane Hume. And yes, it's a good message. You say something enough times, people will believe it. But I really do think the Liberal Party really needs to get its ducks in a row and start penetrating on the issues. You cannot just keep saying Labor is bad. Explain it. Give me solutions. Don't just give me mother statements and talking points. Tell me how the Liberal Party is going to ease the cost of living crisis that we are all feeling. That is a hit point for Labor at the moment. We are all feeling the pinch from this cost of living crisis. Private health insurance, we were told to take it under John Howard. He gave us a 30% rebate. But if you've still got it, premiums are going up significantly now. So even those people who have really tried hard to keep their private health insurance, well, crunch time's coming. So this is what the Liberal Party need to do. Big ideas like that. Will you give a 30% rebate to people to take out private health insurance? What will you do to ease the cost of living? That needs to be what you keep telling me in those press conferences. Yep, tell me Labor's bad, fine. But I need more substance.
You can show your support for the show by buying me a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/McKnight Tonight. Every bit helps keep this show from our garage going.
Here comes
All right, let me know your thoughts by going to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. And during the ADHD panel, I'm going to take your feedback live. So it'll be a good time for you to jump in and let me know what you're thinking. And maybe there's a question you want asked. I will be keeping an eye on it. All right, let's have a rant. Well, a woman has faced court after throwing coffee at a McDonald's worker. Now, this is what went down in a Macca's in Michigan.
Properly and apologize to somebody for being here over an hour. That's what you can have. Yeah, within 20 minutes. Now, catch that ass.
That is outrageous. Kashara Brown pled guilty to throwing semi-warm coffee at the staff member, claiming she had been kept waiting for an hour. Brown was arraigned and granted bond on the condition that she would not go to any McDonald's restaurants. She'll be sentenced in March, so next month. Here's the thing that gets me with that. I don't care if it was cold. You have no right to do that. Now, why have you waited an hour for your food? Surely you could have tapped on the thing and said, I think you've missed my order. There's a whole thing about whether she paid and went through the proper procedure, but, you know, that'll all play out in court, obviously. But whatever's happened, you do not have the right to throw things at staff members. As far as I'm concerned, she should go to jail. Workers have a right to go to work and just work with an expectation they won't have things thrown at them. You know, when we're down at Coles and Woolies and they have those signs that of how they expect their staff members to be treated with respect. Seriously, Amanda and I have had this conversation where I'll say to her, is this really what it's come to, that we need signs to tell us to behave? Is that really where we are? But unfortunately, it is. We've seen that footage I've played previously at Bunnings where people are punching the people working there. They're taking knives and things. I mean, what are we coming to? We think we're a civilized society, but I sometimes wonder just how far we have come. During COVID, we saw how things can descend very quickly when we had fights in supermarkets over toilet paper. And people wouldn't even give one roll to their neighbour. It was crazy stuff. When I see stuff like that, it gets me angry. And it makes me sad. I just think we can do better. All right, our big ADHD panel is coming up. Beck is standing by. She'll be there to help us out and give us her thoughts as someone who has ADHD, just like myself. But first, we'll get some feedback and, of course, a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, it's time for our random live shot of the day. And tonight we're heading to Switzerland in Lucerne. The bridge was opened in 1910. Well, we can't see. Oh, yes, that's the bridge. There we can see. Lucerne itself sits on the shores of Lake Geneva. It is the home of the International Olympic Committee, which is why it's often referred to as the Olympic capital. Weather-wise, it's a cloudy day with a top of just 7 degrees after an overnight low of 4. Beautiful part of the world, though, isn't it? If you want a complete change to what we've got at the moment, that makes a nice backdrop, I think. Well, we've got to move things along tonight. Let's get to some feedback coming into youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight and our Facebook page, of course. We've got this one from Dylan. Happy Hump Day, everyone. Happy Hump Day to you as well, Dylan. We've got this one from Jason. Please fix the backing music. Just choose some royalty-free music. Anything is better than that. Now, I don't think Jason is talking about the McKnight Tonight theme. Heavens forbid. I think he's actually talking about the countdown music that we use in the lead up to the show. Do you know, I like it though, Jason. I don't know if it's the ADHD. It does something to me. In regards to the Liberal Party and the coalition, O'Neill Crazy says, we want solutions. We know what the problems are. We are living with them. Don't tell us who, tell us how you plan to turn things around. We want detailed policies. And in fairness, I think they are coming, and we're starting to get more detail than I think we've seen in quite a while. Dylan says, true, Rob, but he already has announced his position on things, something Lee did not. And I agree with that, Dylan. Good point, well made. We've got this one over the page. Jason, no policies, just banging the government. How helpful. Yeah, there's some fairness there. Matthew says private health is now at about 22% rebate. Remember when it used to be 30% when John Howard... And what John Howard did was a great idea and got a lot of people to take out health insurance, taking pressure off the public system. We need ideas like that. Own Your Crazy says, in regards to the Macca's woman, I was taught manners growing up. The generation that taught them are long gone. No one kept track of the lessons taught and bothered to pass them on. That, and we live in an age of entitlement. Absolutely true. Well, keep the feedback coming. And if you've got questions during our ADHD panel, send them in. I'll be keeping half an eye on them as we have our big discussion. That is coming up, well, about now.
The best place to watch McKnight Tonight is on YouTube. Help us monetize the show by going to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. And you can always become a paid member. That gives you exclusive live streams and early access to videos. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Okay, let's talk about ADHD. New reforms in Victoria will give GPs the ability to diagnose ADHD and prescribe medication. Now, if you're a regular viewer of McKnight Tonight, you will know that I have ADHD and I've shared bits and pieces of my journey. But tonight, I thought we'd go a bit deeper and get some experts in to help us understand what people like me go through and what can be done to help those with the affliction. And what a panel we have. Matt Tice is the chair of ADHD Australia. Associate Professor Matthew Harrison is from the University of Melbourne. Beck Hocking, who also has ADHD, is a regular viewer of the show. And you might remember she appeared in the ABC TV series, The Assembly. And Dr. Lou Brown is from Curtin University and has lived experience. Thank you all for being here. Matt Tice, I'll come to you first. What do you think about the reforms in Victoria allowing GPs to diagnose ADHD?
We're definitely seeing this shift happening across the states. In Victoria, it's a delight to see them coming on board. Of course, it's not enough fast enough for the community, but we are pleased that progress is coming, and I think the real challenge going forward will be to eliminate some of these bottlenecks and to make that training more widely available, so that more people can access that. But certainly a step in the right direction, following on from some of the other states that are a bit ahead of the curve. So we're really happy with that, but there's more work to do.
Fair enough. What is the biggest misunderstanding about ADHD?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Oh, that's a big question, Rob. I think I don't think
why you freaked out when I asked
guess
you
that's
a
why you get paid the
follow-up
big bucks, right? Look, I think that I put it in three categories, right? So one is what I describe as the stigma category, that that some people sort of are not quite far enough along the curve, that ADHD is real and it affects affects so many people. So that's my category one. So I think there's a big misconception there. I think there's another one about the evidence, whether or not ADHD is a legitimate sort of condition that people are dealing with. So there's a challenge there, and I think that the broader population often doesn't understand just how difficult living with ADHD can be for people and their families. And I think sort of it's meaningful to ask that question, and I'd love to hear the other panelists, their lived experience on that question. But from my point of view, it's a complex condition that requires a lot more deep understanding.
Certainly. Matthew Harrison, I'll bring you in here. We keep hearing ADHD is increasing. Is it? Are more people being diagnosed, or are we just getting better at recognising it?
I think both are true, and I always say that I'm a teacher, not a clinician, and there's people like Matt and Lou who have expertise in this space. But from what I see, working with a lot of young people with ADHD, we do see increasing numbers. And we look at population data, but I think we've gotten a lot better at understanding what ADHD can look like in girls and women and people who are gender diverse, and looking at things like early screeners. We know that teachers are getting training in this about working with, in partnership with people like Matt and clinicians and people like Lou, looking at how we can actually, have a team to work together to identify and support from an earlier age. So there is definitely one leading to the other. There's more awareness, and that's leading to higher diagnoses. I hear all sorts of things, Rob, around, it's the video games or something like that causing it. And we know that's not true. I've got some excellent people like Matt and Lou here who will be able to tell us that is absolutely bananas and not true. There's a lot of rumours out there, but I think the main thing that I read in the research is that we are just getting better at this, which is nice.
Lou, well, let's bring you in and ask that very same question. There is criticism that, every second person has ADHD now. What do you make of that?
I think it's hyperbole and hysteria and the stigma. There was a study done in 2014. They did a meta regression analysis on 135 studies taken between 1985 and 2012, and they basically found that the prevalence rates of ADHD worldwide have remained consistently stable over a 25 to 30-year-old period. So the prevalence rates aren't changing. What's changing is our ability to actually diagnose and pick up that people have ADHD. And the increase in diagnosis really sits around the adults who, like myself, weren't diagnosed as a child. I was diagnosed at 47. So if we're now picking up all those children, it is going to look, or as adults, it's going to look like our prevalence rates are increasing. But they're not, they stayed the same. And there's research that they used to think that people grew out of ADHD, but now there's more and more research coming to show that the prevalence rates stay pretty much consistent in adulthood, and that you tend to have ADHD as a child, you will tend to have it as an adult. So this big catch-up happening. Of course, we're at risk of overdiagnosis. We do need to be careful and make sure that we're only having really very well trained.
Do you think that's happening?
People? No, I don't think it's happening, but I always think that it's a risk, and that I think that everyone is being very careful when they're upskilling GPs and things to take that into consideration to make sure they're absolutely highly educated and have all the knowledge and skills they need to accurately diagnose people with ADHD. And if they have any doubt, they will refer on to a psychiatrist or a pediatrician for a double check to make sure that's not happening. So it is obviously a risk, but at the moment we have no evidence in Australia of overdiagnosis. There might be in America or other countries, but we are not. Our rates are different to everywhere else, but there's no evidence of it in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was a kid, I'm 52 now, and when I was a kid, ADHD was an extreme thing. You only really saw it on a current affair and shows like that where it was kids absolutely destroying the house. I never would have thought, and I'm sure my parents never thought, that I would have it, and yet it has had such an effect on my life. After I got diagnosed, we knew something was wrong. With just the journey I've taken in my life, in work, in personal relationships, it's been a game changer for me. And that's why I get a little bit funny when people just write it off that, everyone's got ADHD, Papa Ritalin, all that kind of stuff.
It's, I obviously grew up with undiagnosed ADHD as well. And my life was really hard. I'm surprised at 58 that I have a PhD and that I made it, because there were times when I was a young teenager that I didn't want to be here anymore. And there are so many times in my life that I struggled because of my ADHD and I didn't know any better. And when they said, you asked Matt about, misunderstanding of ADHD and false things, all I kept thinking to myself was that people still think that people with ADHD or kids with ADHD are naughty children, and they are not naughty children. They do not have the ability to regulate in the same way as their peers. And unless we approach them and support them in a way that affirms their neurodivergence and actually meets them where they are, then we're going to continue thinking that, but it's not the case. That's just a very damaging, and I can't tell you how much damage it does to people. Like, growing up with ADHD is hard, but it's learning to live with ADHD is not the problem. It's all the psychological damage that comes with all the messages that you get and the criticism and the misunderstanding and stuff. That is the bit that does the most damage to us. So if we can work out how to stop that, it's very easy to live a full and empowered life with the condition.
And also part of it is not understanding why you're doing the things you do. And, people say, why did you do that? And your answer is, I don't know.
People grow up with so much shame, so much, the research shows that you grow up with poor self-concept, self-esteem, self-efficacy, high risk of anxiety and depression, substance misuse, eating disorders, self-harm, suicidal ideation and completion, etc. And that the thing that starts off the whole journey is probably attachment insecurity, because of all those messages and things that people, like parents, don't understand. They're not given the right information. Then it sets off a negative parenting spiral that affects that, and that's your foundation of everything. So yeah, it's really sad when you read research that kids are reporting that they feel really ashamed and they feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with them.
Yeah.
How awful for anyone to feel like that. That shouldn't be happening.
Couldn't agree more. Beck, I'll bring you in here. You were diagnosed at just 5 years old. What did ADHD feel like as a child?
So I'm going to be 100% honest. That's when I got my original diagnosis. But
Right.
what happened was some silly pediatrician, and I'm sorry, but I will say that they're silly. They gave my mother Ritalin, and back in those days, look, I need to give a whole backstory, but basically, kindy in WA was very different pre-primary to how it is now and how it was in the East Coast. So we used to have Fridays of school. This silly woman, I assume, gave my mother Ritalin, but I don't believe explained what was going to happen. So what happened was I went to, I think they call it a soft play, like an indoor fun place, and climbed on top of the slide at a particular place. And my mum, my poor mother, like my mum's been through it. I mean, she's been through it with me as an adult as well. So I was re-diagnosed at age 28, but I was diagnosed with autism at age 10. And the scientists, who are a lot more smarter than me, can probably say that they used to believe that ADHD and autism could not coexist in a human. I'm so glad that it does. And if it wasn't for TikTok, I would not have gone and saw my doctor again and been like, hey, what's going on? And the day when I climbed on top of the outside of the slide, I actually don't remember because I was probably so drugged up. And I really hope any doctors that are listening to this, if you're going to give someone medication and they've never taken it and it's a stimulant, please, please, please do it gradually. Don't just give them the medication. Don't give them any tools. Don't give the parents any tools and just go off, because unfortunately, I think my journey to diagnosis and my life would have been a bit easier had someone not have helped mum and explain. Because I read my reports recently, and my mum was in tears. So, I love my mum. I hope she's watching tonight. I love my mum, and what she had to go through was what no parent should have to go through. So I think it put her off her. And then for all of school, they thought I had a learning disability. And now I'm nearly 32, and I still don't see myself as an intelligent person. Not that there's anything wrong with having a learning disability, because of the fact that I have to learn differently to my peers.
I understand. Look, we've got a question coming in. I'm going to go to the feedback. Own Your Crazy has asked, he says, I was diagnosed as being autistic last year, age 50. What is the difference between autism and ADHD? Who on the panel wants to take that question?
Lou, that one's for you.
Lou, it's been decided.
I'm not sure how well I can answer this because I'm not an autism expert, though my son is autistic. The diagnostic criteria is very different for both. With ADHD, the diagnostic criteria looks at whether you're displaying inattentive or hyperactive impulsive characteristics. Those characteristics have to be present before the age of 6, I think it is that right? Or is it 8? And you have to meet a certain criteria, etc. And those characteristics can't be explained by other things that are happening. With autism, and this is where Beck might be much better at explaining this than me, the diagnosis looks at your ability to, in social situations, your ability to interact and to process information and things, so they can overlap in some of their characteristics, but the whole assessment criteria is different in lots of ways. And when kids are really young, it isn't uncommon for one or the other to get missed. Like my son wasn't diagnosed with autism until he was around, and I'm guessing now, so I'm going to probably give you the wrong age. I think he was about 14 or something, where he was diagnosed with ADHD at 7, because his ADHD symptoms really masked his autism. And because I had ADHD, I could see what he was doing and think to myself that, well, I didn't know I had ADHD, but I looked at his symptoms when I understood what it was, and I could actually explain that through ADHD traits. It only got to a certain age where I could no longer explain them in that manner, and the difference of his communication style and his the way he interacts with people became really prevalent. So I don't know if I've answered that very well. Beck,
You've done a great job, Lou. You don't have to apologise. We've got you here to share your thoughts, and we appreciate that. And don't forget, you can get in contact with us via Facebook or YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. I can see comments coming in. I am keeping half an eye on it. I've got another one I want to go to in a moment. But Matt Tice, the chair of ADHD Australia, what I want to ask you is, in workplaces, how is ADHD commonly misinterpreted? How does that misinterpretation manifest?
Oh, gosh, I love that question. It really starts, if you think about it, Rob, it happens at every stage of the employment life cycle, from through the recruiting process, through interviewing to onboarding, performance management, all of it. And I think Beck said it really well, is sort of people engage and learn, and people with ADHD engage and learn differently, and therefore they communicate with the world differently. So quite often, an individual with ADHD in one of those situations, for example, in interviewing, might find themselves very impatient, or they might find themselves very even bored sometimes. And that looks like lack of interest, for example, for a prospective employer.
Can I just say,
right?
I have been in meetings.
Is that landing for you, Rob?
Oh, yeah. I have been in meetings where I'm just like, we're spending an hour in this meeting. The answer is so obvious. All we need to do is this, and we can all go. And I'm trying to get to the end. And in actual fact, my wife a lot of times will say to me, let me finish the sentence before you give me the answer.
Right. So I think that kind of experience sort of is almost completely pervasive. So I think the challenge is, and this is the challenge in corporate life in general, where people don't necessarily know how to communicate with each other. Forget ADHD for a minute. Most breakdowns in the corporate world happen because people can't communicate. But when you have a neurodivergent individual with ADHD, for example, and someone who doesn't have that experience on two sides of a table, often they just can't communicate, and that creates a situation where people are exposed to uncomfortable situations, or workplace bullying, or perceptions of workplace bullying, or just I don't understand what you're telling me because you're not speaking in a language that I can understand. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in this space. And, we're really committed at ADHD Australia to help employers and employees meet in the middle so they can better engage and communicate on common ground. I think it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to be done. I'm going to go back to our feedback. There's another one coming in from Justine, and she says, since gaining my ADHD diagnosis, it has become increasingly obvious to me that there is a huge gap in the ability for women to be identified as ADHD due to the wide range of symptoms. First question, do you see this? And second question, do you know if this will be a consideration in the training of GPs? Lou, is this a you one again?
I can answer that, but I don't know if it's definitely a me one. I think that the understanding that women or girls and women can have ADHD as well is relatively new, but is quite widespreadly known now. And so there will be like when they teach GPs about diagnosing people with ADHD, it will be looking at women and men, and it will be looking at the different ways that those symptoms can manifest in both women and men, etc. So I think our problems with women getting diagnosed is catching up. It's like we were behind because people just didn't realise or catch on that women had it as well, or girls and women. But I think that's quite well known now that we do. And of course, there's still a bit of a catch up, but I think that, yeah, they will be trained just to understand that both sexes can have ADHD.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm going to take this next question that we've got on social media, which has come via YouTube. It's from Clint Tice. And I'm going to throw it to you, Matt Tice. Hang on. No relation, I don't think.
Not that I'm aware of, but good evening, Clint.
If you feel as though a child or adult is using ADHD as an excuse not to do something, how do you speak to the person about this?
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that's a great question. I think that in all human interactions, it's important to understand the person on the other side of the conversation and treat interactions with empathy. I saw your McDonald's clip a few minutes ago, Rob, and gosh, that was really shocking. But if you sort of think about that as a pattern for this is, I think often we're talking at each other, and I think the secret sauce here is to try and reverse the position and understand the perspective of the individual on the other side of the discussion. So it's hard for people that don't have lived experience or haven't had, that aren't ADHD to be able to develop those tools to be empathetic to those individuals. So in some ways, we all have to train ourselves to be better at really understanding and listening and sort of building up the muscle, if you will, to understand the perspective of individuals with neurodivergent conditions.
Okay. Matt Harrison, or Matthew Harrison, we're trying to differentiate the two Matts here. When someone comes to you with ADHD, what are the kind of techniques you give them? How do you help them through their journey?
It's really interesting, Rob, because I'm like yourself and Lou. I'm openly neurodivergent. I'm openly an ADHDer. So I work a lot with young people. So they'll come to me and they will say, I've got ADHD. I say, well, guess what? I've got it too. And, it is. There's this idea that it's a superpower, and I don't buy into that. It has really real significant challenges. Lou, when I heard Lou speak before, very similar to my experiences, that self-doubt, the reason I belong here, and somehow I have a PhD and work at a university, and people don't see the 16-hour days. So it's first starting with that empathy, and it's exactly just what Matt, my namesake, was just saying about, just that listening, because I've got my journey, my story, they've got their story. A bit like you, Rob, when you're speaking earlier, there's a lot of similarities with me as well, and my very patient partner. But listening to these young people hear their stories, and get them, and I ask them questions from a place of just trying to understand. So saying, how does it make you feel? How, who can you go to for help with this? It's about school. And it's really just the act of listening and asking those clarifying questions. And something that you mentioned before, Matt, about, people jumping in and out on top of each other in conversations, and how that's interpreted by for these young people, by their peers or by teachers in schools, as if they're trying to be rude, and they're trying to say, well, actually, I'm excited. I'm just trying to show you that I'm excited about something. And when you start to hear those words from the young people, you start to understand them better. So really, it's helping them to self-advocate for themselves by listening, finding out what they really need, and then trying to give them some language to help them to bridge that, we call it the double empathy problem in the autism space. And I think it's a really good language, the idea of breaking down those communication barriers, giving them some language so they can speak neurotypical, as you like to call it, translate for teachers or parents or siblings. And that's been really powerful for us, I think.
Okay. Beck, I know that I can hyper focus, and and I don't understand when people aren't there with me on my journey and what I'm trying to achieve. Have you ever been labelled difficult because of your ADHD?
Okay, so I don't know how many days of life I've lived, but every single day since I've been an adult, I've been labelled as difficult. And there's...
Don't mean to laugh.
I'm honest.
It's only because I get it. I know.
So something I want to mention really quick, and I know that tonight is specifically about ADHD and the differences between ADHD and autism, but I often say to people, it's like you've got red and blue at the Olympics fighting in my head constantly. And that's because of the fact that as an autistic woman, I have to mask, but then you throw in the ADHD, the confusion, the way I have to behave in public. A lot of people don't realise that, and as I've gotten older, my brain does not shut off. Mother, please don't be mad. I'm currently going to bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, and something I just want to bring up real quick. So medication's great, and I understand that we do need to take it. I have swallowing problems, but my Vyvanse is actually causing, partially, but I also have insomnia, which is therefore affecting all my other conditions, including my chronic health condition,
yes,
post-orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Whenever I say POTS in the comments, everyone thinks I'm doing pot. No. And my mental health as well. So I think, I don't know.
It is hard to find or it can be hard to find the right medication that goes with the other things, your other needs and everything like that.
I do hyperfocus, but I'm also autistic as well. So you throw that in, and I can hyperfocus, but I can also go all over the place, which is why I'm making a McKnight Tonight poster, so that way I can
lift it up a bit. We couldn't see it. Oh, I love it.
Saying, but also focus on the conversation at hand, because if I don't, and when it comes to difficult, I don't know how to shut up, and it drives people absolutely insane. And yes, therapy can help with that to a degree, but then you throw in pathological demand avoidance, and I'm not using any of this to excuse behaviour. I'm using this to explain my take on things a little bit more, and to explain that it can be a tug of war, especially for people with only ADHD, because as a child, particularly as women, we get told high teas, dress in a pretty dress, and be quiet. But because our ADHD makes us loud and over the top, people can't handle that, because boys and men socially are meant to be like that, not women, technically, in an old traditional sense.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I want to go back to the feedback, and I know we've heard from Own You're Crazy before, but this is a really interesting question. He asks, how did you feel when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Trump started suggesting ADHD was brought about by self-medicating with paracetamol? Matt Tice, the chair of ADHD Australia, I'd like to get your take on this one, please.
Rob, I'm not touching that with the barge pole. But what I will say, is those types of comments are extremely unhelpful in any range of of human life. I'll just sort of leave it there. How do I feel when I hear things like that? I think that ignorance is the worst disease, and I think that these individuals should know better. So I'm unhappy seeing that.
Yeah, fair enough. ADHD Australia, does it get government funding? And if so, does it get enough?
Rob, there's never enough funding. I
Sure.
think, I'll come out. We do have a number of grant programs that we're running concurrently at all times. So, the government's involved in a number of those, but we have diverse funding sources. But I think that across the whole sector, not just for ADHD Australia, there needs to be more resources, particularly for, as we've already discussed, education in areas like health and employment and education and justice, and helping individuals sort of navigate the community. There's lots of opportunities to put more resource there. I think just the health pathways are very complex and confusing. There's a lot of opportunity to help people navigate those pathways. I think Lou mentioned it earlier. There's been some good research, but there's opportunities again to put more resources into better research to help us get more granular. For example, what's happening in disadvantaged communities around Australia? We need work there. We need more research for understanding better young women and the whole journey of women. We need more research to help us understand. We talked a little bit about medication, but holistic care and the role of kind of a 360-degree treatment through life. There's a lot of opportunity, and I think the Senate inquiry did a nice job articulating where some of that funding can go. But we do need the government to move more quickly to get behind those recommendations and put some wood behind it so that we can make things move more quickly and help more people. I mean, 1.2 or 1.3 million Australians are affected by ADHD. That's a big group of people. I think it should be motivating to government to get behind that. It's a huge slab of our population that urgently needs better services, better education, better resources.
And if someone is watching tonight and suspects that they have ADHD, what is the correct first step?
Talk to your GP. I think that's where the journey starts, right? And there's a process, and that process is very rigorous. So, I think Lou mentioned it earlier. I'm not too worried about the issue of people being overdiagnosed. I think that the current approach is extremely rigorous, and but I think don't be afraid. Go and talk to your GP, listen, and your GP should be equipped to put you in touch with a specialist. And just expect that the process might take a little while and will be frustrating, but reach out for help from those that can help you. Come talk to us, come talk to Lou, Matthew, Beck. Come talk to people that are working with supporting or have lived experience with ADHD and get some help to deal with the other side of it, right? One part is diagnosis, the other part is how do you navigate life? And much of that is about finding your tribe.
Finding your tribe is a good way of putting it. Lou, if we go back, trying to get a diagnosis can be very expensive. And, we've seen criticism of people on the spectrum, people saying, or commentators saying, people are shopping for a diagnosis. Would you like to see what's happening in Victoria with GPs able to diagnose and medicate? Would you like to see that rolled out nationwide?
Yes. I have someone who's been in the advocacy space for quite a while for ADHD, have had concerns sometimes about who is diagnosing ADHD. Just knowing that if there's a mistake, something is done wrong, the people or the ADHD community will be the one that will get it. Like, it'll just add to stigma if there is overdiagnosis and all that. But so I've been watching the space very carefully, and I've come to believe that the GPs are being trained very well and are becoming experts before they're even, and having a lot of support and mentoring along the journey of becoming someone who can diagnose ADHD and treat ADHD. So I've come to feel more comfortable in that and feel like, yep, that's going to be a good thing, and I can't see why it wouldn't be better if it's everywhere in every state.
Well,
Really
I think
consistent.
it would be a good thing as well. Matthew, when you're dealing with kids, as you say, you really look after kids and see them on their journey. Parents must be very aware, picking up on the early signs, because, you know, I made it to my late 40s before being diagnosed. Is that because the parents are tuned into their kids? Is that because they're at the extreme side of it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Rob. I think there is more awareness now in this generation. I'm like you. I was diagnosed as an adult. When you go back to my school reports, it's my psychiatrist said there are people who maybe like a line ball or not sure. Said I was textbook. I don't know how you were missed. Like earlier on, I'm a child of the 80s and the 90s. But there were some pretty strong hints, some little breadcrumbs in the school reports. And so when we see this with parents now, we often see a lot of parents themselves who have received a diagnosis, and we joke in the space that I work with. It's often a buy one get one free, where the child will be picked up in an early screener. They will go to a clinician and go through exactly what Matt said. Go to a GP, and the GP will say, "Actually, I'm seeing some signs that perhaps you are also have ADHD or an ADHDer, and we might, use that as a chance to start a conversation about what was your experiences of schooling, what was your experience of growing up." Go through all the standard questions they'll go through, and you'll see that there often is that family connection there. We do also see parents now, which is wonderful, because of a lot of the advocacy groups like Matt's involved with. I know Lou does some work at the advocacy space too, but because there is stronger networks now, parents have places to go and to get that information and to find out how can we get more information, support, what is the proper diagnosis pathway, what happens, when my child is at school and they're not getting the accommodations and adjustments they need. So I think that's been one of the great things of the internet, is that people being able to find each other. And I think, finding your network, finding your support group has been a really big change for a lot of parents too.
Yeah. Lou, can I ask, have there been any advances in the treatment of ADHD? I was reading the other day that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and form new synaptic connections. I was reading that offers a powerful non-pharmacological, I wish I could say that word, approach to managing ADHD?
This is not my specialty. My understanding from what I've read, and like I said, I'm not a fay with all this literature. My research that I do is very much grounded in lived experience and advocacy, not neuroscience.
Sure, I understand, but I come to you, you are aware of what's going on.
My understanding is that there's not enough significant evidence at present to say any of those things work. Some may be promising, but there's not enough significant evidence to show that anything is more effective than medication or that anything has a long-term effect.
Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Before I let my guests go, I'd just like to make this point. Tonight wasn't about labels. It wasn't about politics. And it certainly wasn't about excuses. It was about understanding. ADHD, it isn't a TikTok diagnosis, and it isn't a personality flaw. It's a neurological difference, a different way the brain processes focus, impulse, emotion, and motivation. For some people, that difference is exhausting. For others, it's misunderstood. And for many, it's both. I've spoken before about having having ADHD. I've joked about it. I've blamed it. I've even hidden behind it at times. But what I've learned and what tonight has reinforced is this. ADHD explains behavior. Doesn't excuse it. The goal isn't special treatment. The goal is fair treatment. When we understand the condition properly, we stop calling people difficult. I've certainly been called difficult. We might also stop calling kids lazy. We stop assuming someone just needs more discipline. And instead, we start asking better questions. What support do you need? What environment helps you thrive? What strengths come with the way your brain works? Because there are strengths, let me tell you, creativity, energy, hyper-focus, big picture thinking. The tragedy isn't ADHD. The tragedy is untreated, unsupported ADHD. And I'm sure everyone here on this panel tonight has had moments of being unsupported. And if tonight did anything, I hope it moved the conversation from judgment to understanding, because that would be progress. My thanks to Matt Tice, Matthew Harrison, Beck Hocking, and Lou Brown. You have all been brilliant. Really appreciated your insights. Thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
Thank you.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
What a terrific panel, and I really do appreciate everything they talked us through. Well, we've got a little bit of feedback before we wrap this sucker up. Let's have a look at what you're saying in response to the show tonight. And we've got this one from Elijah. He says, it's no measure of health to be successful in a sick society. Lots of people don't naturally fit into this one-size-fits-all bullshit model of society, and that's actually normal. Well said, Elijah. Is that all we've got, Jasmine? Oh, sorry. Great to see. Clint says, great to see Beck live, because when you meet people in a group setting, you do you make it known about your ADHD, and what is the response you get from these people? I should have asked Beck. Hang on, Beck is still there. Beck, do you want to answer that question?
I am, and this is what gets me into trouble. I am very open about my ADHD and the list of conditions I have, because to quote the late great father, my father, he said that if you don't tell people, they're gonna judge you more.
Yes.
And I do think that telling people up front, to be up front, not everyone has to be, and not every situation calls for it. But if I'm not up front early, then people are going to mistreat me, bully me, and not understand why I'm behaving a certain way. However, if I call any of the panelists a nasty name, that ADHD and autism does not give me license to be disrespectful.
I agree.
If it's a situation that I don't understand that I'm being disrespectful, that's different. You learn from it, you get over it, and you just don't do it again. Because we all
look
make
at that.
mistakes.
My ADHD wouldn't let me do a proper goodbye. I still come back to you. Thank you, Beck. Appreciate that. Let's look at what else you're saying on the feedback. Dylan says, it's Beck. Yay. Lot of love for Beck. She is a regular viewer of McKnight Tonight, and this panel was her idea. Justine says, with some children being able to effectively mask in certain environments and the potential impacts on gaining a diagnosis for early and effective support, do you think this is a contributing factor to misdiagnosis, and is there any advice for families to overcome this and ensure children have the support they need? It's a good question, Justine, and I think we might follow this up with our panel of experts another time. Own You're Crazy says, I was diagnosed with mental illness by a GP inside 15 mins and given medication. That was 32 years ago. It took more time and doctors before getting a definitive diagnosis. It's what has improved, changed. I think the whole thing has improved and changed. All right. And I think we'll get this one from Dylan. I definitely think it's increasing. As a teacher, the number diagnosed with it is increasing. I'm averaging 8 to 9 in a class. Well, it would be interesting to know what environmental factors are playing a part if there is more diagnosis. That brings us to the end of this special edition of McKnight Tonight. Thank you for your company. Get your drinks ready because it's Tipsy Thursday tomorrow, and I think we'll all need a drink after this week. So get your drinks ready, get your merch, and I'll see you tomorrow night for McKnight Tonight. See you then. Thanks, everyone.
Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight. It's good night from McKnight Tonight.
Well done, everyone.